Panther booted out. The Carolina Panthers and Houston Texans had a joint practice, which got me to think, who's going to have the better career, CJ Stroud or Bryce Young? What's going on? You watch your Panthers Post. Thanks for joining. All right, well, the Carolina Panthers and the Houston Texans, they had a pretty physical and fiery joint practice in Houston. It was hot. It was like 80 degrees Fahrenheit at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it showed on the field, which got me thinking, and this is always going to happen. Anytime the Texans and the Panthers take each other on, even when these guys' careers are all done, you're always going to bring up Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. Best buddies off the field, on the field, they're always eternally going to be compared. And it got me thinking, at this point, they are both in their third year in the league. It hasn't been easy for either of them. So it got me thinking, which one is going to, in the end of the day, have the better career? I'm going to break down some of the factors that could determine my decision. Ownership. So, with the Houston Texans, they're owned by Cal McNair. He has been there since they were brought to the National Football League. And since then, they've had some good moments. They've had some moments where they made it to the wild card round and an early exit, that 3 p.m. Knockout on a Saturday. Carolina Panthers, in the meantime, while they haven't been owned by David Tepper during that time, they have been to 2 Super Bowls. David Tepper is riskier, in my opinion. I think he's a bit more of a maverick. I think he's out there to try to win as much as possible. I think he sees himself as David Tepper versus everybody, and we have seen that he's going to do what it takes to try to win. Yes, hasn't shown on the field. However, moves have been taken at least every year. He continues to throw the dart. He goes the rookie NFL coach and Matt Rule route. He tries to see if that works out, tries to bring that collegiate community team building, club building, culture building aspect to the team. Didn't work out. Scrap it, burn it. That's a couple, $70 million down the drain. Frank Reich, experienced NFL coach, all-star NFL cast, doesn't work out. Too many cooks in the kitchen, despite having the first overall pick in Bryce Young. Burn it, let it go. Couple tens of millions of dollars down the drain. Now he goes rookie head coach, buy low, offensive potential genius, division rival, and just a bunch of young guns. And is it going to work out? We have yet to see. Cal McNair, the team before CJ Stroud, I gotta bring up to people, the Texans with Deshaun Watson was the most toxic team in professional sports. And this man was the owner. Before David Tepper was throwing drinks at people in Jacksonville, this guy and his team was seen as the worst run franchise, the most corrupt, the most dirty franchise in the National Football League. I think this happened before or at the same time as the Washington then Redskins and their owner with the Snyder family. Either way, in terms of ownership, I honestly think, and again, I'm not paid by the Carolina Panthers. Right now, I think the Texans got a lot of grace because CJ Stroud has been great right now. But David Tepper, the guy is learning on the fly. It's only his, 7th year owning the team right now. And so I think just the way his brain works, he's going to do whatever it takes to win. And at the moment, right now in 2025, I'm betting on Tepper getting to a Super Bowl with his franchise before the Texans. Let's talk about head coaches right now. The edge in this, well, let's talk about, first of all, the 2 coaches. D'Amico Ryans played the National Football League at a high level. And then with the San Francisco 49ers coaching tree, the Shanahan tree, the much appreciated and beloved tree, one of the most beloved trees. You got the Shanahan tree, you got to say, as the most talked about, has created the most head coaches, offensive coordinators, and potentially, I haven't looked at the numbers, but the head coaches, offensive coordinators that have been to Super Bowls have some kind of 6 degree of separation with the Shanahan family. And so you got that. He is a defensive minded head coach, and those things are a rare commodity, and it's actually showing on the field. It's playing out. He is creating a ferocious defense. He seems to be a leader of men. It seems like people will run through a wall for him almost day one as a head coach of the Houston Texans. He seemed to just garner the appreciation and the effort from all his teammates. On the flip side, Dave Canales, kind of a no-name, never played in the National Football League. Yes, he's been with a winning culture when it comes to Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks. Comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, hate to say it, they've won 2 Lombardis. They're a winning culture. That's where he comes from. But he is super young. He is not well known. His enthusiasm is borderline, like borderline cheese. Like it's not going to be cheese if they're winning, double-digit games in a season. But right now, the tale is yet to be told with Dave Canales. It sounds like a cop-out, but Dave Canales right now, at least on paper, it looks like the vibes are trending in his direction, that things are going to go well for him, that people are picking up what he's putting down in terms of the philosophy, the culture he wants to build on Mint Street. But right now, D'Amico Ryans gets the edge in terms of leading their star quarterback in CJ Stroud to a successful NFL career because of what he started right from the get-go. And I think he brought that gravitas and he brought that respect after years in the NFL as a linebacker and being the defensive coordinator that he was such a ferocious defense and perennial playoff contender in the San Francisco 49ers. And with that, let's talk about the defense. I always talk about the 2015 Carolina Panthers and the fact that they had Thomas Davis, Luke Kuechly, Kurt Coleman, K'Wan Short, all these guys on that team that made Cam Newton, Josh Norman, that made Cam Newton's job easier. He had shorter fields. They routinely got picks. Thieves Ave, all that stuff. It made Cam Newton, who was a league MVP for a reason. He did it on his own as well. We looked at that receiving core. He brought them to the Super Bowl. But that defense, with surefire Hall of Famers on that roster, made his life easier. And when it comes to the defense between the Carolina Panthers and the Houston Texans, again, the edge, you got to give it to the Houston Texans, at least for now. Again, they have a head coach that's been a head coach with their team a little bit longer in D'Amico Ryans, but you just take a look at the talent that they got. Henry 2020 at the University of Alabama, coupled with Will Anderson Jr. with the University of Alabama, Sheldon Rankins, Danielle Hunter, Derek Stingley Jr. I believe he is now at least the first or second highest paid cornerback. Everyone waited for J.C. Horn to get paid, and then they got out and did it. C.J. Gardner-Johnson is hurt right now, but they just got dudes on their team who have proven in the National Football League that they can perform. Where on the flip side, the Panthers, yes, they got J.C. Horn, but again, to those outside the Carolina Panther community, it wasn't until he got paid that people were talking about him, how being a shutdown corner. If he traveled more, maybe he'd be talked about a little bit more, but it's just not happening. I think this year will really come out. As long as he comes out healthy and he got paid, I think he's going to be part of the national conversation. Obviously, Derek Brown, again, not part of the national conversation. People don't know who Derek Brown is outside of Carolina. I hate to say it. You try to talk about some of the best defensive tackles in the league. Derek Brown, unfortunately, is not going to be brought up with the rest. But I think that's going to change. Again, I think that's going to change. Both defenses, they're in different parts of their journey right now. The Houston Texans defense, they've had D'Amico Ryans as their head coach. They got the stars on the defensive line, and they are where they are. Whereas I believe the Carolina Panthers, they got the building blocks. Mind you, not, again, nationally known, the J.C. Horns and the Derek Browns out there. And I just don't think they got the names, but they're in a different part of their journey and they're building. Nick Scorton in this joint practice against the Houston Texans out with a heat injury. Ironic because he's a Texas guy. Prince Umanmielen, I think, again, another rookie that they picked up in the later rounds in the third round. I think he's going to be an absolute menace despite his undersize. I think his bend and his speed, Brian Burns like, mini Brian Burns like, I think DJ Wonnum has been showing up, showing out during training camp. I think he is going to surprise a lot of people. And then the improved defensive line that we already talked about numerous times. You got Bobby Brown from the Rams. You got Turk Wharton from the Kansas City Chiefs, bringing that muscle, like actual girth into the defensive line. From what I've read, they were absolutely shutting down the run game. You got guys like Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Damian Pierce. They got a good running back room with the Houston Texans, even though those guys, Joe Mixon not playing, Nick Chubb, he was out there, he was dressed, Damian Pierce. But the defensive line is getting better. Again, they're just in a different trajectory on their journey to be, we were the worst defense in the NFL last year. I think they're going to be competent and then some this year. We're seeing guys like Mike Jack stepping up. We're seeing guys like Corey Thornton, guys like that, undrafted free agent cornerback out of Louisville. He's stepping up. He's still making a name for himself. Trevin Wallace making a name for himself. He just got to practice in the AM. He had some personal issues, but he is on the ascent. So this defense, as long as Ajir Avero cooks, like he's got no excuse. They've improved the defensive line. It's going to make the linebacker room lives easier, despite the fact that you don't have Shaq, you don't have Josie Jewell, who wasn't a world beater anyways. You're losing talent there, but the defensive line should make it easier. At the moment, you would give the edge to the Texans. However, I think when it comes to career, as they continue to build, I think the Panthers defense, as long as Ajir Avero schemes it up and, steps up because he's lost some juice in terms of head coaching viability, all that stuff. He's lost it. He's lost that window right now. If he wants to reopen that window to maybe be a head coach one day, as Dave Costa said in the past, literally last week, it's all about development with these coaches and these players. They're a developmental club. They want people to ascend. He needs to cook on the defense. And I think the Panthers defense does have an opportunity to surpass the Texans defense, thus helping out a Bryce Young. So this one, just because of the nature of where they're at right now and projecting to the future, at the moment, I have to give it a tie right now. I think CJ Stroud gets the edge with a great defense right now, but I think in the future, I think Bryce is going to do well and be in a better position with the defense that they're currently building in Carolina. We talked about the defense. Let's talk about the offensive line. And I think this is a slam dunk. It's an absolute slam dunk. Vince Carter, slam dunk challenge. It's over. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Carolina Panthers. They have the edge right now. They know. It's like they were put in the corner, gun to the head. It's like, hey, you got a 5'10 quarterback, soaking wet, maybe 200 pounds. You don't protect him, he might die on the field. And what did they do? They invested in Damian Lewis, who's hurt right now, but he'll be back. They invested in Robert Hunt. Ike Ekwonu is going to be due for an extension at some point, seeing how he's doing right now. Taylor Moton, still solid. You got Austin Corbett, who's been announced as a starting center right now, and he is a Super Bowl winner. He's a tough dude. We heard from guys like Mike Kay, who's been watching training camp, that you will not want to be a safety or a corner out there in space. Austin Corbett just out there on a free run. He will lay you out. You don't just have the starters. You got backups. You got Cade Mays, who could start for some offensive lines now as a backup role at guard. You have Brady Christensen, who's a backup role in left tackle. He too could have been a trade piece. He too could start for one of the NFL teams right now who need a left tackle. This offensive line is going to make Bryce a superstar. What we saw last year with the Houston Texans and what they did and who they let go, like Laramie Tunsil, gone. They just traded him away. He was the best. He was one of the reasons why CJ Stroud did so well in his rookie year, and the Houston Texans just shipped him off. I forgot what they even got in return. I completely forgot what they got in return. And that was the reason why, if you just take a look at both of their sophomore years, it looked like at the end of the year, Bryce Young was the ascending player out of the two, and CJ Stroud was kind of figuring it out. He had that Cinderella moment when he came out in his rookie year, and I literally thought he could potentially be the face of the NFL, one of the faces of the NFL. And you saw that. He was making every single appearance and parties and all that stuff, the all-white party with Fanatics. And Bryce Young was a scrub. Everyone thought his career was done. By the end of their second year, it looked like both are heading in completely different directions, favoring Bryce. And I think a big part of that is their offensive line. And, if you talk to any Texans fan and you give them some truth serum, I think they're going to say their biggest worry is the offensive line. Can they keep CJ Stroud upright? And if I'm going to put money on any offensive line, keeping their quarterback healthy, especially right in the middle of the offensive line, that is the most important. Doesn't matter how tall or short you are, that's the most important. I'll take, when healthy, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis over whoever they got at that position. Jarrett Patterson, Lankin Tomlinson, who is good, and Titus Howard with the Houston Texans. So the edge goes to the Carolina Panthers. All right, let's talk about the final and the sexiest part, skill position players. The weapons at the disposal of these high IQ, athletic quarterbacks. And you're going to be surprised what I have to say. But you just take a look at who the Houston Texans have at their disposal. Okay, Joe Mixon's out right now. Nick Chubb, Dameon Pierce, who's a stud. Nico Collins, Tank Dell. When is Tank Dell ever going to play football again? Christian Kirk, okay, he kind of disappointed when he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He is now with the Houston Texans. Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. They double did with Iowa State. They had Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Jalen Noel, a guy who I thought the Carolina Panthers should have drafted, but it's okay. It's okay. We got Jimmy Horn Jr. He's good. I trust him. You got John Mechie the third. You got Braxton Berrios. You got Xavier Johnson, Daniel Jackson. But John Mechie the third, Canadian. He's a burner. But again, we got our Jimmy Horn. Braxton Berrios again. With those two guys, it seems like and Jalen Noel, those guys all kind of do the same thing. They're all a little bit undersized. They get separation. They move the sticks. They're kind of the same. Christian Kirk, kind of like a supersized version of those guys. Nico Collins came out of nowhere. Never really thought about that much about him. Remember, the Houston Texans traded with the Carolina Panthers, and with the trade result, they ended up with Nico Collins. Nico Collins came alive thanks to CJ Stroud. Shows just how good CJ Stroud is. Jaden Higgins starting as a rookie. We'll see how he does. I like the way he played. I like the way he ran routes. I like the way he caught the ball. I thought he was physical at the point of attack. I think he could be good. Dalton Schultz, sneaky good tight end. I didn't really think much about that when he left Dallas over to Houston, but he's been bombastic for the Houston Texans. Cade Stover again, and Luke Latchey out of University of Iowa. He's a 4-string tight end right now, according to their depth chart, but he was also a guy who I mocked to the Panthers a couple times this year. But it kind of seems like the offense runs through Nico Collins. And now you're kind of relying on undersized Christian Kirk, rookie Jaden Higgins, John Mechie III, who has potential but hasn't really shown much. Tank Dell, I think he really was the X factor in that wide receiver room. He's going to be gone for the foreseeable future. Jalen Noel, you're hoping on the upside. He reminded me of DJ Moore. Could he become that at the next level? We don't know. But then you got the Carolina Panthers. They have invested in the first round, back-to-back years, weapons for Bryce. And not just weapons that do different things. We already got XL. I don't believe in the hate. If you take a look at some of the highlight packs from the Panthers, from Keith Blitzen, whoever, he absolutely dominated. I think he is out on a redemption tour right now after that first preseason game against the Cleveland Browns when he was ejected in the first quarter for laying out their cornerback and a couple punches, haymakers. I'm proud of that. But he came out there and he laid it on the field. Hand catches, no body catches, getting up there. You know, we're now seeing a clip from the Appalachian State head coach, who was his head coach of South Carolina. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he talks about how an amazing human being that he is. That his first touchdown ball that Xavier Legette got in the NFL, he gave it to him, and that he said that is his most prized possession. We got a great dude on the team. I think he could probably beat up Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins, John Mechie, Jalen Noel by himself. By himself. That's just XL. XL could think that he's the wide receiver one, and he very well could be on any given day. And then you got Tetro McMillan, who is the big body wide receiver, the first wide receiver picked in last year, or this most recent draft. The LA Rams wanted to have a Polynesian pair with him and Puka Nacua. They were willing to trade up all the way up to 8 to get Tetro McMillan. That's the talent he is, and we saw him dominate. He torched Derek Stingley Jr. in these joint practices, high pointing the ball that only he can high point. He seems like he already has that Cali connection, that Cali chemistry with Bryce Young. If you're CJ Stroud and you gave him truth serum, I think he would get Tetro McMillan. He would want him on this team over any other wide receiver that he has right now. That's not even mentioning the cokehead, Coke Zero. Like, Coker is, if you look at the Twitter sphere right now, and again, Twitter's not a real place, but to some people, he's wide receiver 1. I'm not talking 2, 1. He's wide receiver 1. Better than XL. He's proven more in the NFL than Tetro McMillan has. He is not 35 years old, like Adam Thielen. He is not Hunter Renfrew, who comes back from autoimmune disease. He's wide receiver 1. Now, I don't really believe that. I think on their best day, I think XL is better than Jalen Coker. I think T-Mac will be the guy. I think if you told me, name it right now, the pecking order of wide receivers in the Carolina Panthers at the end of the year, I think it's going to be T-Mac, XL, Jalen Coker, Hunter Renfrew. I think that's the way it's going to be. That's just it. But I think Jalen Coker, again, he would thrive with a guy like CJ Stroud. He would thrive on the Houston Texans. And then you got Adam Thielen, who, again, is a potential trade candidate for a team that wants to win a trophy for a reason. He moves the sticks. He's crafty. He's tenacious. He still has that game-breaking ability. He's on our team. Hunter Renfrow, I think he's going to make the team. Moves the sticks. Again, he's a wizard. He breaks people's ankles. He takes their souls. And then you got our tight ends. I think our tight ends probably not as good as Dalton Schultz, Cade Stover, and Luke Latchey, but I do think JT Sanders, Agent Zero, I think he's going to have a great year. He's slimmed down. He's smartened up. I think he could be big. And then Mitchell, we haven't seen too much out of him thus yet. He had a peanut punch. He was a victim of peanut punch today. Again, it's just practice, but it's an intense practice. And then Tommy Tremble, not available. So really, the tight end group, if you want to break it down, tight end group, the edge goes to the Houston Texans. The wide receiver group, 100 million, 1,000%, you give it to the Carolina Panthers. And the running back room, just the fact that Joe Mixon is out, I would take Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, and Etienne over their guys because Nick Chubb, history of injuries. Damian Pierce, he can only do so much. Chuba Hubbard is an absolute dog. Absolute dog. If you grow up in a place that goes to minus 40 degrees Celsius, look it up, do the conversion on Fahrenheit. It's cold. You don't F with that guy. Rico Dowdle, I think, is going to be absolutely explosive out of the backfield and in the backfield. And then Etienne, I think he just adds a different layer to this running back room. I would give the edge to the Carolina Panther running back room. So with that said, who will have the better career? Not better year. Who will have the better career? No surprise, I'm going to say Bryce Young. I think the ownership is more aggressive. I think the head coach has a way to go, even though he lost out in that head-to-head with D'Amico Ryans. I think the defense in the long run will be better. The offensive line right now and in the future will be better than the Houston Texans. The wide receivers are better. The running backs are better. And they're young, like XL, Tetra McMillan, Jimmy Horn. Like that could be your, and Jaden Coker, sorry. Those four guys are your future for the next 6 to 7 years. You can't bank on Nico Collins, Christian Kirk. Like, how old is Nico Collins? Nico Collins, 26. Okay, he looks old AF. Christian Kirk, 28. I can't believe Christian Kirk is older than Nico Collins. I am absolutely floored by that right now. But if your wide receiver 2 is 5'11, 200 pounds, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. So in the long run, I think Bryce Young's going to have a better career than CJ Stroud. Let me know in the comments below what you think.